Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. Whether you're tuning in on the Radio Dial in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM, we welcome you to our program. Also, we thank all of you who are tuning in through our online affiliates around the world. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. As you all know, I always reach out to you all and say, hey, if there's someone out there that you think that I should speak with, someone I should look into, definitely send them my way. I'll be more than happy to reach out to them and see if they will join me here on Conversations Live. My best friend, Herschel Dixon in Kentucky, actually reached out to me last week. He had seen a video by our next guest and thought it was someone that I would appreciate as well. That person was Ria Story. I had a chance to be able to see a little bit of her own personal story in that video. I then, of course, went online and was able to find out more information about her and then reached out to her, and lo and behold, she agreed to come on the program today. So Ria's with us today to talk about what it's been like for her to not only to share her own personal story with all of you, but also how it's been able to help people in other ways as well, including their professional lives. She's written books that deal with both. We'll talk to Ria about that, as well as what it's been like for her also to realize that all of us, no matter where we are, where we come from, what we can achieve in spite of where we've been. If you're just not hearing about Ria, we'll tell you at the end of our segment how you can stay connected with her. But Ria, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Well, look, I'm glad to have you on. And like I said, I'm one of those crazy guys that, to say at this point, hey, they can only say yes or no. And I try not to get my ego bruised too easily when they say no. But I was so glad that you said yes, Ria, when I reached out to you. And I want to begin there because one of the things that I really appreciate about you, and I'll be drawing a lot about your own personal blog posts that you've been able to post. But, one of the things I really like is that you've been able to share with people that where you have been does not have to define not only who you are, but also where you can go. What has it been like for you to see that message resonating with people, Ria?
It's absolutely been incredible. Every time I speak or share a blog post or even a LinkedIn post or message on social media, someone reaches out to me and says, I just needed that inspiration, or I just needed to know that even though I too have experienced something painful or difficult in life, there's hope for something to get better. So for me, that's given me a purpose in sharing my story, is to help someone else. And if I can just simply help one other person realize that there is hope. There is hope that tomorrow can be better, that life doesn't have to stay in a bad place. That makes it worth it for me.
Yeah. I want to go to one blog post that you shared on Amazon, actually, in August. And you took us back to 4 years ago, Ria, and you said this in part. In early 2013, I heard motivational speaker Les Brown speak. He said, you have a story to tell, and someone needs to hear your story. Only you can help that person. He was speaking to a room of several hundred people, but his words went straight to my heart. I knew I had a story to tell, but I didn't want to tell it. Now, that was 4 years ago. You took us back to early 2013. Do you still have those wow moments when you think of not only what you have achieved in those 4 years, but also the lives that you have touched in that time?
Absolutely. Here I am 4 years later, 6 months after I heard Les Brown say those words, I finally found the courage to share my story. And 10 days after doing that, I resigned from my job in the corporate world, leaving behind a career to chase a calling. And I look back over the last 4 years, and every opportunity that I have to touch someone is a gift. And when I see that multiplied times hundreds of people, it's not about the number of people, but the individuals that I can touch. So Mac and I spoke together at a high school just a few months ago, and just to a group of high school students. And one of them they all sent us a note afterward to thank us, but they sent us a stack of thank you notes. And one of them said, I've learned that I can come from nothing and go to something. And it's those opportunities, those individuals, that when I can touch that, that's why it's so rewarding to do what I do. That's why I put the work into, writing the books and putting out the blog posts, because I'm trying to reach that one individual just as much as, masses of people. It's just
right.
about touching that one person.
Can you talk about the liberation that came from when you were able to resign and start being able to pursue your calling, Ria? Because I think a lot of times we all are so fearful of, of what might happen, what may not happen, and if this is going to work, what if people don't accept it? I mean, what was it like for you? How liberating was it for you to get to that point?
It was incredible. It's been an interesting journey. It's been a difficult journey. We often underestimate the level of sacrifice that's going to come with pursuing our passion and pursuing our dream. Yeah. It's much like you think of a competitive athlete. They may be naturally gifted, but they still have to have the discipline to put in the work to make it become a reality. And it's like that for any of us. The thing about sacrifice is we always feel the loss first. So we know if we want to pursue a dream or start our own business or make changes in our life, maybe it's simply just changing careers or starting a family. We always feel the loss and the sacrifice first. But we know that if we're willing to continue the journey, we'll get to the rewards. So it's really, we just have to be very intentional about staying on track and staying focused. And one of the biggest temptations is, to see, it's much like planting seeds. When you plant seeds, and that's what I call it, we plant seeds every day. But often if we don't see an immediate harvest, we get discouraged. And so I think one of our biggest struggles is staying on track, even when we don't see those immediate results or the immediate harvest of fruits from our labors and our efforts, staying on track and being patient, continue to water those seeds and let them grow in their own time, and they will sprout eventually.
Right. I think that is so true. And you mentioned Mac, of course, your husband. The two of you work together with Top Story Leadership and being able to write some of the books that are out there for the world to be able to read. We'll remind them of that a little bit later. How has that been for you, Ria, to be able to have that support system literally that close to home, to be able to take this journey along with you?
When I resigned from the corporate world, Mac was already working as a consultant, so, he had a home office already. So when I resigned from the corporate world, I had an office on the other end of the house. And so we both were working and living in the same house 24 hours a day. And we talk about now, that's a true relationship test. In that situation, it's not enough to just love somebody. You actually have to like them because you spend an enormous amount of time with them. Now, it's been incredible. As we've grown through this journey, we almost have a his, mine, and ours because we both have our individual strengths and our individual topics, if you want to call it that, on speaking and writing. But we also love to work together and collaborate on projects. So it's been a great blend of having that and learning to work together. But we see the synergy that comes from that. It's always having someone to bounce those ideas off of, to someone to make you, better, stronger, if you will. Someone to say, hey, is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? Someone to be supportive and encouraging. We all need that uplifting. Truett Cathy said, someone needs encouragement when they're breathing.
Yeah. That is so true, and I'm glad you mentioned that you all are able to kind of share on the various topics. Of course, one of the books that people know you from, of course, is Ria Story, From Ashes to Beauty. One of the books, though, that Mac and yourself have co-written, though, is interestingly enough entitled Change Happens, Leading Yourself and Others Through Change. Now, ironically, you know exactly what that's like because, as you said, when you resigned and, here the two of you were, working out of the same home in your own spaces, you know exactly what it's like to be able to experience change. Have you found that one of the reasons why what you are doing resonates so much, Ria, is because it comes from not only an authentic place, but from a place that you know well?
Absolutely. I think that's critically important in someone who is speaking or writing or teaching, is that they speak or write or teach from a place of personal knowledge. It's much like, would you like to take a trip based on the advice of a travel agent or a tour guide? We want advice, we want lessons from someone who's been there, because if they've been there, they can help us through the other side. And if someone hasn't gone there themselves, it's really difficult to speak from a place of authenticity.
Right. one of the things that you talk about in that book, Change Happens, from your perspective, and it's an interesting thing to think about, and I think this is why so many people, when it comes to entrepreneurship, Ria, they say, okay, I don't know if I'm kind of ready for that. And you talk about the importance of overcoming, for one thing, complacency, but also one of the things that you write about is this. You say it's one of the greatest dangers success in life brings, complacency. Why? Because to become complacent means we quit striving for improvement, for growth, and for something better. Unfortunately, the risk of complacency rises with each level of success, personally and professionally. I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We don't think about how what we do in our personal lives, how it does kind of carry over into other areas of our life. Talk to us about how that has really helped you in keeping things in perspective, Ria, and how you've been able to help people realize that when you write and talk.
I see it as so often in life we spend a lot of years trying to get somewhere, to get comfortable. You know, we go to school, we want to graduate and find a job and be able to just kind of cruise and enjoy the weekends. But what often happens is that if we're not intentional about growth, it won't happen. And if we're not growing, we're not moving forward, sooner or later, we may not realize it immediately, but sooner or later we realize that we are sliding backward, because standing still is not an option, because the world is changing, the environment is changing. So if we're not intentionally moving forward, we are moving backward. It's simply a question of how fast and how far. So for me, that's been powerful to realize that intentional growth happens in all of the dimensions of life. If you think of life as four-dimensional, there's physical dimension, there's a mental or emotional dimension, there's a social relational dimension, and then there's a spiritual dimension. And we must be intentional about balancing and moving forward or continuously improving in all of those dimensions. So physically, for example, it's important that we are continuing to improve physically. Are we exercising 3 times a week? Are we eating a healthy, nutritious diet? At the same time, we also have to be careful about improving ourselves mentally, emotionally. What are we learning? What are we reading? Are we listening to great shows or podcasts, or reading inspirational books? Because if one dimension of life is out of balance, the others will sooner or later become out of balance as well. It's much like a wheel. A wheel cannot run smoothly if it's not balanced, if it's not equal in all dimensions. And life is like that for all of us. So it's powerful to realize that and realize that we must be intentional about it, because it's so easy to get comfortable and complacent. And, nothing fails like success. We see that. I love to use the example of a football game analogy, because so many people can relate to it. The 2 teams go into the locker room at halftime, and one team is ahead by a significant margin. They go in at halftime. Both teams come out on the field for the third quarter, and what so often happens is the team that was behind going into the halftime comes out. They've made some changes. They've made some changes to strategy or player or positions, and they come ahead and beat the team that was winning because they changed something. While the team that was ahead going into halftime continued their game plan. It was working. They said, well, this is successful. Let's continue to do it. But
right.
The environment changed around them. And it's the same way for all of us. We have to change because circumstances change. And what was enough to help us be successful or help us get successful here is not enough to keep us successful long term.
That's true. And that's why it is so important for us to do that self-examination every day and to kind of see where we are and where we want to go and what we're doing to get there. It's a really great point, Ria. For those who are just tuning in, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Ria Story to our program today. She's not only an author and motivational speaker, but a living example of not only what is possible, but also how, again, as I mentioned earlier, that no matter what you've gone through, no matter what situation that you have faced, that it doesn't have to define you. You can move forward and survive and thrive. Of course, another one of the ways I mentioned Amazon earlier, the blog post that was there. LinkedIn is another place, as you mentioned, Ria, that you stay connected with people. There's a great meme featuring a quote by you on LinkedIn that I found that said, success isn't based on your ability to cover up your flaws. Success is based on your ability to overcome them. One of the books, of course, that you've been able to write is Leadership Gems for Women, 30 Characteristics of Very Successful Women. I want to share one thing you wrote about resilience and then have you talk about, especially for women, why it's so important for them to realize the power that they have. You mentioned a quote by Nelson Mandela, and you write this, resilience. Just the word makes you want to sit up a little taller, or lift your head a little higher. Resilience is the ability to recover, to spring back, to thrive, and to become strong after or in spite of tough times. Resilience is one of the qualities we admire most in other women and expect most in our leaders. And kind of piggybacking off that thought of when it comes to women and leaders, you write this, some women master resiliency at an early age, while others may not find it until old age. Some never find it. Some women learn to be resilient to some circumstances, but not others. As the leader, it's your job to be resilient. That's why you were chosen to lead. I want to talk about that, of being chosen to lead. What has that been like for you, Ria? Of course, the messages that you share are great for men and women, but in speaking to women, why has it been so important for you to share with them that they have the ability to do exactly what you've been able to do when it comes to surviving and thriving?
I really think it comes down to the fact that the life is tough. You know, everyone doesn't have my story, but everyone has a story at some point of experiencing grief or hardship or loss. Life will get tough at times, and it's so important for us to be able to bounce back, because when we are happy and positive and uplifting when things are going well, that doesn't really increase our influence with other people. It's when things are going bad or tough, or when it's a tough situation and we're able to be positive, uplifting, and have a great attitude, that's when we see our influence with others grow, because they take note of that. We all like to be around positive and uplifting people, and it's when we are able to be that for someone else, especially when things are going wrong, we see our ability to influence them increase. Particularly as women, I think we often feel pressured to have that perfect image, or that I have all the answers. I'm covering up my flaws. It's a Facebook perfect world. And we feel that pressure. And yet, as you said, I believe that success is based on our ability to be open and vulnerable and say, I am not perfect, but I'm working to get better. And that's part of resiliency, is that ability to rise above. I love to think of the acronym RISE, and I explain this as my resilience model, where RISE stands for the acronym. R is respond proactively. Regardless of the situation, I have the ability to choose my response. I stands for identify accurately. What's holding me back, and what do I need to do to move forward? What can I control? And then S, step forward consistently. We don't have to conquer the mountain today, but just conquer the moments, the little moments. If we're continually doing that, we will move forward and we will conquer the mountains. And then E is experience abundantly, because I think that's something, the missing piece. So often we forget that life is to be lived abundantly.
Right. I think, again, that is the great thing, again, for all of us to be able to remember that, again, that we can do just that we can be able to rise and to be able to do amazing things. You know, as you've looked at what you've accomplished, Ria, and as we look forward, of course, to, there's going to be more accomplishments to come, what is it that keeps you the most motivated? Because as you said, life is hard. So for yourself as a motivational speaker and author, what is it that keeps you the most motivated?
It's really tapping into why we're doing something, because if we can tap into the why, that gives us the emotional willpower, if you will, to keep going. So I love the example of eating healthy, for example. I love pizza and donuts as much as the next person, but I know that's long-term not healthy for me. That's not going to really sustain me in a healthy physical dimension. So my why has to be tapping into that, hey, long-term, this is not good for my health. Let me have a salad today instead of, pizza every day for lunch. So anytime we feel ourselves getting tired or frustrated or just distracted, I think it's important to tap back into that long-term goal or vision of what success looks like. It's different for all of us, but tap back into why am I doing this to begin with? Because a strong enough why will give you the energy and the burning desire to be able to make the right decisions, to stay focused, to stay inspired, to get up even when you don't feel like it, and keep moving forward.
Right. I think that's it, and I think it's such a great reminder for all of us. Again, everyone, Ria Story has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Ria. We've been talking with her not only about what it's been like for her to share her own personal journey with all of us, but also, of course, her professional one as well. She's been able to do that as a motivational speaker and an author. You can find her books on Amazon.com. A couple of them we referenced here. We're about to let you guys know how you can stay connected with Ria as well. Ria shares her personal story in the book, Ria Story, From Ashes to Beauty. We referenced earlier social media, and I think that, again, is one of the real-time ways, Ria, that all of us, again, are able to kind of stay connected and to share. I mean, have you gotten used to that almost, instantaneously you can be able to literally reach the world and kind of get that instant feedback from people that you are able to share memes with, to share these inspiring words with?
For me, I think it's a beautiful opportunity. Social media has literally changed the way we communicate with the world. I think the risk is often that we focus on our social media and sometimes forget to develop those personal interaction skills. They're just as important for success. So, yes, it's a beautiful opportunity, and I love that. I love being able to inspire people across the world at 24 hours a day by putting something out there. But I also love being able to have those conversations and opportunities to actually interact with people live. So,
right.
Both are a beautiful way. They both have their good sides.
Right, for sure. And I think, that's one of the things we talk about a lot of this program. When used responsibly and respectfully, the Internet can be an amazing thing, especially social media. So it's great to be able to have that out there. So let our audience know, Ria, how can they stay connected with you and kind of keep up with what's going on with you?
Sure. You can follow my blog at riastory.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Ria Story is my tagline for both LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram. Twitter, you can connect with me at Ria_story. So I'd love to hear from you.
All right, so make sure you're definitely staying connected with Ria. We'll make sure to tag Ria on all of the platforms for our online audience so you all can stay connected with her there. Ria, again, congratulations to you. Thank you so much for saying yes, and looking forward to having you back on the program again.
Absolutely, Cyrus. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're more than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late, you missed part of the conversation with Ria, don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media site, so head over to facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go over to twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. As I mentioned, we're going to tag Ria on both of those places to make it easy for you all to find her there. But if you click on the link, you can listen to the show completely for free and also share it with your friends from there as well. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. You all make it a great one.